Talking Point platform, TTPTV. Oh yeah. Unale we pledge, we love and loyalty. To we sweet, sweet mama salute. Now we all come together as well on. For tomorrow, now we go make salute.
Easier because we have all the live. One camera. Then one little people with a little one different.
I don't want to delay any longer because we can now reveal that based on this data, here we go, Labour is on course for a landslide majority tomorrow with a majority of, get this, 212 seats. Now, that would be the biggest majority for any single party since 1832. It would break a series of electoral records. So that there, the 212 seats, that's the main headline, but there is loads more data that is being released right now that our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, has been going through all the data. You can take us through the key headlines because, Sam, that is the number that the Conservatives did not want to see on the eve of polling day.
That's right, Sophie. This is it. 212 seats majority. That is the projection that YouGov are making about Thursday's
job done. Perfect. So we have a beautiful 31,793.30
general election. And as Sophie says, we are on course to break so many records if this projection turns out to be anything like the result that we get on Friday morning when the votes have been counted. It's bigger, this majority, than anything we've seen in this century and in the last century. You have to go back to the 19th century to see anything like this before. And that number suggests that Rishi Sunak's gamble has failed. The supermajority argument has failed. Look at the history here. You have to go back to 1832 when there was a majority of 224. The Conservatives weren't even in existence. You had the Whig Party and the Prime Minister was the Earl Grey. Look at more recent comparisons. This is where this projected majority would fit. Keir Starmer in 2024 with 212. Now look at more recent precedents. Exactly 100 years ago, there was a Conservative majority under Stanley Baldwin of 210. The massive Blair majorities, really, these are the majorities, huge landslide majorities of our lifetime, Sophie, 179, 167 in 1997 and 2001. Nothing like the 212 that we could see on Friday morning, and then one in 1895 of 153. So you can see the scale of the majority compared to history when it comes to comparing it against single party victories in elections. Let's go through the numbers in some detail. Right, let's look at the next slide. Now, it's important to say this is a projection. And with any projection, particularly importantly on the one on the eve of a poll, there's a range of uncertainty. There's a margin of error. So the projection, central projection, is 212 seats for the majority. That could be, it could, under these numbers, with this margin of error, mean a majority of something as large as 282 seats, which would be extraordinary. But it could mean a majority as little as 132 seats. Now, I say the words as little as. That is still a stonking majority that would give Sir Keir Starmer complete command of the House of Commons and seemed unimaginable in 2020 when he became leader. It has to be said that there are about 89 seats that are very close to call. So bear that in mind. There is quite a lot of uncertainty in this projection, but all of it, even the least optimistic end for Labour is a pretty good result for Keir Starmer and a disaster for that man there, Rishi Sunak. Right, let's look at the next slide. And this tells you what the House of Commons is going to look like. And I have to say, there are lots more records being broken. Labour would be on 431 seats. That's the biggest in their history. It's up 202 since Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn fought out the 2019 general election. Let's look at another record being broken. This man, Rishi Sunak, will have taken the Conservatives down to 102 seats. Again, that is the lowest on record, below the previous, quite considerably below the previous Tory low, which came when John Major fought the 1997 election. And look, they've lost 263 seats compared to 2019 when Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn fought that election. Pretty bad night. For John Swinney of the SNP, they would go down to 18 seats, which is down 30 from 2019. Look at this, a new high for the Greens. They double their seats to 2, up 1 from 2019. Let me give you some more records. Look at this. One of the big faces of the campaign, Sir Edward Davey, and wow, up 61 seats to 72. That is by my reckoning, about double the wildest dreams of this man last September when he held his party conference. So an incredible result for Ed Davey. Lots of nerves in the Lib Dems about this figure, but clearly YouGov doubling down, and they think an incredible night for the Lib Dems. It would easily take them back to being the third biggest party in British politics. And this man, another person who has been a face of the campaign, Nigel Farage. Now, he would get 3 seats, and that would mean Nigel Farage being elected, it would mean Richard Tice being elected, and it would mean the Great Yarmouth seat going to Reform. It's a new party. It's hard for new parties to make any progress at all. So he will be pretty pleased just winning his Clacton seat. Right, let's look at some of the numbers that underlie this.
Have you got club card?
Club card accepted.
Receipt?
And here they are. In fact, this is the range. This is the uncertainty that I was talking about, except in terms of seats. So Keir Starmer could have 466 seats at the upper end, 391 at the lower. And look at this. The worst end of the projection, within the margin of error of YouGov's projection, the Tories under Rishi Sunak could get down into double digits, 78 seats. So you can see just how much uncertainty there is, but it could be even worse than we're saying. The SNP could go down to 8, could be as high as 34. You can see the Greens getting up to 4 seats. Let's just look over the other side so we can see how they do. Ed Davey could be as high as 87, could be as low as 57. Either way, that's record-breaking for that man. Nigel Farage between 0 and 14, although 3 seats is their central projection. Right, let's look at the next slide, and you can see some of the impacts of the campaign. Now, we've done these polling projections for you all the way through the campaign in order to find out how the campaign has changed the way that people have voted. Because Rishi Sunak took a gamble. Early election, has it worked? I mean, goodness, look at this. This is the number of seats that the Conservatives have dropped just in the course of this election, 38. Labour have gone up 9. The Lib Dems have done very well. They've got up 24. SNP up 1 and Reform up 3. So those are the changes since the start of the election campaign. And you can see basically this election campaign with D-Day, with the gambling scandal, has been a disaster for Rishi Sunak. Right, let's look at the next slide. And here it comes. There you have the opening conclusions. You have the highest number of seats for the Conservatives since records begun, for the Labour since records begun, the lowest number of seats for the Conservatives since records begun. 212 majority is the central projection by YouGov for Thursday's general election. You have to go back into the 19th century to the Great Reform Act in order to find anything as big as that. And I just want to give you one more little bit of data before we pause. Look at this. All of that majority, that incredible record-breaking feat for the Labour Party is all happening on the Labour Party coming in at under 40% of the vote. There you can see they do have an advantage over the Conservatives. Conservatives actually have clawed back a tiny bit since the start of the campaign. They're on 22%. But that is really fascinating. The main parties, actually the proportion of people voting for them is right down, and you do have effectively people voting in all the right places in order to give Labour that incredible number of seats, and that is some of the maths underlying this election. And I just will give you one more thing. Look at this. Remember, Ed Davey has seats in the 60s. Nigel Farage has 3, yet only 12% of the vote is going to Liberal Democrats, and 15% of the vote is going to Reform. And that means that the quirks of our electoral system, first past the post, doesn't mean that the proportion of people that vote turns out in the proportion of seats that you get. It's a quirk system. Both these men actually want to change it. But you can see it's an unusual election. It'll confound political scientists. And YouGov are calling the House of Commons as a decisive majority for this man based on these numbers that don't actually show the Labour Party with that high a share of the vote.
Do you want to discover how to succeed on YouTube without ever even showing your face with AI
Been 16 years in this country, so I love it. But you should see me on holiday. I'm the first with the towel.
Are you?
Yeah.
He's with his wife as well.
Of course. Sorry, Victoria.
Yeah.
No, I thought the stone is wobbling. It's not. Just be careful with my tripod.
Yeah. Oh, you jump ship, you somewhere else. How is it? That's all.
Sorry? I was thinking about bringing the remote, but I was going to do Corbin and this. So I was like,
Yep.
no, yeah, it's just a mirror.
Coming through. Good morning.
Morning.
Very sorry about this.
That's right. I tell you what, the other day, have you been to? I went to Highgate Cemetery. Yeah. Really?
Everyone goes on about it.
It's great. And I met. I went to the guy who's buried. A guy called John Gordon. He invented the crossword. Yeah.
Go on.
Go on. Go on. And I said to them, I said to them, where's he buried? She said, 4 down, 3 across.
Yeah.
Coming through. Sorry about this.
No, don't worry.
You're going to get to work with it. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First right, sir.
Coming through behind you. I apologize. Good morning.
First right.
Come on, you were here 6:30. Huh?
That's long.
Yeah, that's true.
That's 3 hours. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Anyone done your recording? You were supposed to be. All right.
Sod's law, isn't it? Do you want to spot?
Well, this is good. You're gonna get a good shot.
So many things can.
Yeah, that's true.
Even in front of lean out, then I
Very
can't
sorry,
get
sir.
anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you were. The only
It
thing I'm
depends.
saying-
It's not my. I'm gonna
Did you-
pick up. No,
Is that the one you were using the whole time?
no, I'm gonna go on the long one.
Okay, it's just when
Sorry.
you're doing the long one, there's any way you can slide it in front of
I know.
your stomach as much as possible.
Very
Yeah, like
sorry
that.
about this.
Morning all. First right.
Help, yeah, definitely.
The blood there is ruining my shot.
And then when you switch, I'm going to do the same anyway. We get to there.
Coming through.
Is it different now?
Now.
Well, not now. No. You get better shot though.
Good morning. Thank you for understanding.
Good morning.
First right. You voted so.
Toilet and
What? What are you talking about? Coming through
And
behind you.
sofa.
Lady offering goal of this.
First right.
You come to vote, sir.
but no.
She asked.
Oh really? Missed that.
Yeah, but
There's more coming
Funny when
through.
it's police.
Bear.
Well, you'll have fun with this
For the
stuff.
bear.
Morning.
Have you come to vote, officers?
Oh, good positive energy. That makes your life easier.
Kiss Summer. I don't want to do any of those.
Avoid all of them.
Kiss Sunak, marry Starmer. Oh,
I mean, avoid Farage for sure. Yes, a hard call. I don't know. No.
I think Starmer, Sunak, and Farage.
Probably kiss Sunak because the eat out to help out scheme was quite cool. Marry probably Nigel. I think he's a funny guy. And Starmer, unfortunately, is going to have to be the last option there.
That's impossible. Why don't we go celibate?
The sooner the better. Let's go for it. Let's have an election. Let's see what the country wants.
It's going to be interesting, I guess. I'm a Conservative voter usually. Don't know whether I actually want to vote Conservative this time. I don't know who to trust anymore.
The last 14 years have been terrible, particularly for the rank and file of the country. The rundown of the National Health Service, little funding and investment, no industrial policy.
Sooner the better.
Got to the stage where he's got to go for it at some stage or other, so why not now?
Oh, 100% out. I mean, this year has been a mess already. Everything's gone up.
Well, I've heard from what I've seen that it's definitely going to be Labour, which in my opinion would be good.
I can understand what he's calling it because there's some fairly good, well, inflation figures this morning. So I think that he may try and play on that along with Socialist Army.
Now it's going to change. Doesn't matter who we get in. I'd definitely vote for Labour rather than Conservative. Lost all faith in Conservative, to be fair, like after the pandemic.
I think this government's been an absolute shambles. Even as shambolic as government can be, this has been well beyond a joke.
I think it's worth getting an actual vote because of what they've changed, like four prime ministers with no vote, so it's worth getting a vote again.
I'm not sure why he's actually doing it, but I just think there's no point in dragging it out. Just get on with it.
I wouldn't be happy with Labour, but the Conservatives I'm not happy with at all.
It needs to be someone younger, someone who's like in our age range as well, someone who understands like the general public, someone who's been in our shoes.
I'm very surprised by it, to be honest. I knew that I was going to have to call one eventually, but getting it this soon, you've caught us off guard with that. The Conservatives are going to get roasted either way, to be honest. So whether or not it's a good idea is irrelevant. I think they're going to get beat. So obviously they've got problems with the party. They need to sort themselves out internally. So.
What do you think of Rishi Sunak? Who? Rishi Sunak.
Who is he? Is
Prime
he the
Minister.
local? Oh, him, yeah. He hasn't been Prime Minister long enough for me to remember his name, actually. I think that's what it is, yeah.
I think they're not sure who to vote for at the moment because everybody just seems to be in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday. Kind of lost faith in it all now. So just hopeful for a very nice hot summer. England do well in Euros and lots of barbecues and booze.
It's really difficult to know why he suddenly decided to do it now. So I guess maybe that's what he must be pretty desperate. So maybe that's what he's thinking.
I'm not so clear about the whole election.
But I do think that a lot of people are going to be away. So that could, potentially skew some younger votes because most people who go on holiday now are just younger generation.
I think they're going to be more in thinking about holidays.
But many people don't care, and I really don't know why.
There's going to be less people voting. People are just going to sort of give up, I think, really, to say, who do we vote for now? I think a lot of people are going to be not voting like me.
Well, I think people don't have confidence in politicians these days.
I think it's a bad time of year for the election. Coming into the summer or in the summer, people's minds on other things after a bad winter. Looking forward to the summer, Euros on. And yeah, thinking of other things, not fully concentrating on what this is.
The less people who vote, the more the incumbent has a chance of taking power. Maybe that's the reason people on summer holidays, the Euros, feel-good factor, economy, supposedly, although people don't know it yet, it's on the way up.
The politicians, I think they're just a bad example for us at the moment.
I'm not too bothered about it, but I don't see it as very helpful or convenient.
I find it rather difficult to consider any of them seriously.
Welcome back. People in the UK are voting today in a general election that could see the Conservative Party's 14-year reign come to an end. Multiple polls suggest the Conservatives could face a wipeout, with the opposition Labour Party on course for a potential landslide win. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from London with more on this. Good morning, Raf.
Stephen, good morning. The polls have been open here for about 5 hours on this unusually sunny election day in London. We won't get exit polls until around 5 p.m. But from the voters we are speaking to, every indication is that this is a change election and that the British public is planning to vote for a new government and a new prime minister.
Thank you. This morning, after a lightning-fast 6-week campaign, voting is underway across Britain. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, whose Conservative Party has been in power for 14 years, asking voters for another chance.
Your vote will make a difference. Lots of people want to say this is a foregone conclusion. Analysis shows that's not true.
But with prices high, economic growth low, and 4 Conservative prime ministers in a row forced to resign since the 2016 Brexit referendum that saw the UK crash out of the European Union, many voters here are in an unforgiving mood.
They want to see the Conservatives maybe get what they deserve after behaving so badly.
Polls suggest the Conservatives are facing a wipeout, and the centre-left Labour Party heading for a potentially historic landslide victory. Labour's Keir Starmer poised to become Britain's next prime minister and the leader of America's closest ally.
We've now had 14 years of chaos, of division and failure. And the choice tomorrow is to bring that to an end, to turn the page and start to rebuild with Labour.
A former prosecutor, Starmer is a political centrist whose policies and politics align with President Biden's. But next year, he may be dealing with a second-term Donald Trump, who's threatened to pull the U.S. out of NATO and cut support for Ukraine.
Does Keir Starmer have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump on the world stage?
I think Keir Starmer will stand up for what he believes in. When it comes to foreign policy, our support for NATO is the cornerstone of that.
We headed to the West London constituency of Kensington and Bayswater, home to one of the country's closest races. The Conservatives won the last election here by just 150 votes. Now, Labour candidate Joe Powell is hoping to flip the seat.
We think this is going to be very close. Whatever the national polls show, this is not a traditional Labour seat.
Do you think people are excited about voting for Labour, or they just want to punish the Conservatives at this point?
Well, I think a lot of people are very excited about voting for Labour because they're desperate for change in the country.
Some of those looking for change are turning to the populist right and the anti-immigration Reform Party led by a British ally of Donald Trump. Polls suggest Reform winning nearly 1/5 of the vote, though the UK's election system means it's unlikely to win many seats in Parliament.
Now, unlike the US, here in the UK, there's no transition period between an election and a new government taking office. So, assuming the Labour Party wins tonight, Keir Starmer will give his victory speech. He'll sleep for a couple of hours. He will head to Buckingham Palace just down the road to see the King, and then he will immediately take office as the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Stephen?
Wow, a lot to be watching for that. Raf, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Just one platform for news every day in our countries and law. For education, entertainment, political affairs, TV. We put enough Tanga one inside Sierra Leone, like a big quantity. We breathe.